On today's video, we're going to be going over what to look for on a non-running snowmobile when you're trying to buy one used. Maybe it's been sitting in the field at the neighbor's house for 10 years, in a storage unit, garage, you know, whatever.
Could have been Tom's toy at once.
Could have been.
Some might say.
This is an 83 Indy Trail 440 fan-cooled, early wedge chassis, early IFS, very 80s. But you'll find a lot of Indies like this around pretty much anywhere because they made a bajillion of them. A lot of Arctic Cat Jags, like you can see next to it.
Mint condition Jag, though.
A lot of old Yamaha phasers, exciters, SRVs.
Oh, yeah.
You'll find a ton of them around. Everybody's got one of them, you know what I mean? Jags, just stuff like that. So
older Skidoos, too.
Oh, yeah, formulas. Anything formula, there's a fuck ton of formulas out there.
Plus, all that stuff.
Main thing you want to do when it's non-running, give it a once-over cosmetically. It kind of depends how picky you are and what your intentions are. Right. If you're like us, when we buy a non-running sled, we just want to run it hard, put it away wet. Beat the crap
out of it. Not like a good trail rider that you want to look good and actually ride good, but...
Right. So, if you're looking into cosmetic stuff when you're buying a non-running sled, just give it a full once-over. Look at the hood. A lot of stuff is hood fiberglass, kind of gets busted up. Windshields. Take a look. Mainly the thing is the steering's gonna be froze. If they've been sitting, especially in the cold, or if it's been sitting outside and it rusted.
Especially if it's a Polaris or a Skidoo.
Yeah, those are common. Especially water in the spindles, guys.
Oh yeah.
And just give it a, give it a test. Does it move? If it doesn't, don't freaking pry on it because it's just gonna twist and it's gonna have so much play.
Steering, yeah.
So that's a number one thing there is steering. Is it freed up?
Yeah.
Next thing you're gonna do, we can try to lift the hood up. We're not going to do anything engine related yet. Let's kind of go over the other stuff. This one here is missing the airbox. Usually have an airbox here. Check the secondary clutch. Is it freed up? Can the track turn? You'll spin the track, make sure that's not all locked up. Sometimes I've had where the bearings on the jack shaft seized. And I think on one of the Jags I had here, so I had to kind of soak them and get them moving. So you want to make sure that moves. And you can put it up on a jack stand or whatever you bring with you, I guess. Make sure the throttle moves. Choke cable, make sure that moves. I don't know if I would say try to pry on it if it doesn't move. If it doesn't move,
you will break the little plunger.
9 times out of 10 you're going to snap that brittle choke cable that's been sitting. So if it doesn't move with light resistance,
maybe
stop.
You could also come over to the, sometimes on the carbs you can lift up on the cables
itself.
To see if the plunger's froze in the carb.
Yeah, the plungers are frozen in the carb, and you usually got to take a propane torch and some PV blaster and soak the crap out of it. So make sure the cables move, steering.
Check pull condition.
Yeah, the brakes maybe you can just check and see if it's got a hydraulic. Does it actually move and retract? I've had a lot of these old Polarises where the puck gets stuck inside the master cylinder there. Pull rope condition. This one's, it's getting pretty piss poor. You can see the fraying starting right here. You can compare it to this where it's stranded.
It's been outside.
And it's just over time, guys. It could be a 10-year-old rope, 20-year-old rope.
Who knows?
When they snap, it's easier to replace it now than when it snaps. Then you got to go in there and get the old rope out, pre-wind the spring, hook your rope in.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do it now, you can uncoil it, hold it, put a new rope in, and you're done.
And while you're over there, if you can check the chain case fluid.
Yep. Many will have like a dipstick plug. Some have a sight glass, maybe. Could be many different things.
Many. I mean, it's not really too important because most people don't even change the chain case fluid ever.
Yeah, they just run them.
You just run them, but. If you're
and we're very very neglective of our chain cases. We don't check them at all, which we should do more often.
Right.
This one here has a problem with the chain case, guys. It sounds like Godzilla's going to jump out of there. Like it's growling. I think the tensioner busted, so we got to take that apart. Another video, another day. Exhaust pipe condition, guys. If it's non-running, check to see if it has any splits, holes.
You'll see visual
Make sure it has an exhaust in the first place, because a lot of these guys non-running, they'll say it's complete. Well, it's probably missing half the parts. The main things you need for a carbureted CDI box and coil. Polaris is all built into one. If you have an Arctic Cat, Skidoo, Yamaha, you're probably going to have a coil and a CDI box. Yeah. And then the stator, if you have leads coming out of the flywheel, you're going to have a stator underneath there. But like some guys, they'll rob a coil off it. They won't tell you. And if you don't look at it, well, you're going to get home and like, where the hell am I missing the coil?
Right.
Perfect example. We bought a Jag outside. Thing is missing, like the recoil's exploded, it's missing the coil, missing the exhaust pipe, I'm missing a bunch of stuff, guys. Just random odds and ends. So just give it a once over, like, hey, are my components here? I got carburetors, coil, CDI box, I got an air box. Is my oil reservoir there? Do I have a chain case? Do I have a clutch? Do I have a belt?
Does it have oil in the oil reservoir?
Right.
Because they could have burned it down.
And then how oily is the motor? Is it like, look
Right.
like it's been leaking oil out of every orifice? And stuff like that. So always bring a compression gauge with if you can. If you don't, you can do the old finger over the spark plug hole
If it blows
and
your
see if
hand.
it blows your thumb off.
Right.
You can always make sure you bring a flashlight, look inside the cylinders, look for holes in the piston,
Look for
any
rust.
scoring,
You'll
rust.
be able to see visual rust if it's been sitting for a
On
while.
that note, make sure the motor's not tight. Many
Right.
of them you'll be sitting there
Rock
with
the
seized.
primary a little bit.
Take the clutch cover off, rock it. You can take that up if you want.
You know, just give a little rock on here. You'll know. You'll know.
You'll know if
doesn't
it's
move.
seized. If the belt's okay. This one here is kind of piss poor.
Yeah.
You can see the alignment's a little screwy.
Yep.
But make sure the jack shaft is tight and it moves, because the jack shaft's directly linked through your chain case to your drive, so you should be able to move the secondary and the track should
You know,
turn.
you can wiggle on the primary up and down a little bit to check motor mounts.
Get your guys one of these here inline spark testers from
About $7 anywhere. You know,
$5 to $7.
Amazon, something like that.
Take that end,
Hook her
plug it in, put it in the other spark plug here.
Make sure
can
the
check one or
safeties
two.
are on.
Yep.
Kill switches are off.
This one here just has a key switch, guys. What you want to do is probably do a compression test first.
Right.
If it has decent compression, you could always put a little bit of spray down the old cylinders with some mixed gas, guys. Try not to do raw gas, because 2-cycle you want a little bit of lubricity. Especially if this thing's been sitting for 5 years, 10 years. Trust me, putting straight gas and letting it run, and if something sticks wide open, you may just seize it up. So
Yep.
what you want to do is just look for the light up.
You can see
So,
that.
there you
Light
go
up
right there.
orange, white.
We know it's got spark. A lot of guys will just take the plugs out and let them arc on the metal.
Yep. If you don't have a spark checker, that's the
That
easiest
is
thing to do.
an option. It's not recommended, guys, but you can do that in a pinch.
Yep.
Professional way would be to get an inline spark checker. These aren't as accurate, but if it glows, you at least know you have a little bit of spark.
Right.
If you don't have spark, then your repair just got more expensive, you know what I mean? So you gotta do more.
Do more digging.
Exactly. And it could be as easy as a kill switch that's shorted out.
Right.
Could be a component. But if you don't have components to test, you're gonna have to do some research and testing.
And a lot of chasing too.
So fortunate for us, we have extra parts. If I know it's not spark, I can just, like I just had my Jag 2 days ago. CDI box went out it randomly.
That thing ran like a couple days before that too.
Exactly, it was doing some weird stuff. So if you do a spark test and you got spark and you got a little bit of compression, maybe 100 PSI or so, either put a little bit of gas if you can get the airbox off, or if you can get to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when you have the plugs out, put a little bit of mixed gas down the
there,
hole. Tighten them on, put it on, give the rope a pull. If it fires up and dies, you already know you got to clean the fuel system, and you probably have a running sled.
Yep.
If it stays running, well, then you know it just, man, you got lucky and it runs.
Well, you better hit
Had that
kill
happen.
switch quick so that guy doesn't think it's running.
Exactly. And if it has no spark, obviously that's a big selling point. You can obviously
Really?
get it for cheaper.
Try to knock him down on that.
If it doesn't run, you can't really test the functionality
Yeah.
of speedometer,
Nothing
pack,
like
all
that.
that electrical stuff, the lights. You're just taking a gamble.
Yeah.
So, non-running, you got to be more cautious. It just, if you're a project guy, probably doesn't matter. You know, like us, we don't really care. But mainly, you're looking to make sure all components are there, because if you're paying money for it and you says it's a complete sled, you make damn sure you got a complete sled.
Right.
Look in the gas tank with a flashlight. Smell the gas
Smell the
tank.
gas.
Look on the gas cap or inside on the little level thing and see how rusty it is, and see if
yeah.
it looks like it's
That'll-
deteriorated.
That'll be a good teller of how long it's been sitting.
And then take the fuel lines, give them a squeeze.
Yep.
These are still nice and pliable.
If they're brittle, it's been
Been a while.
It's been a
And then
while.
there's a line in the tank, guys, that actually draws up the fuel. A lot of these have been sitting with varnish in them. That thing's either cracked in half, laying in the bottom, or
It falls right off the end that goes in.
you know,
the
it
tank.
could be a bunch of different things. That's why whenever you try to start them and all of a sudden you see the lines start getting dry, that pickup line in the tank probably
This
runs
Jag
off.
just had a pickup line that deteriorated after 1 year.
Yep,
1 year it fell off.
yep. So that was junk.
So
Yeah, that's the big things on a non-runner. You know, check for spark, compression, put some fuel in it, see if it pops off.
mix fuel if you can.
Yep. And then just making sure the components are all there. The track, look at it, give it a good visual.
See if there's any dry cracks,
Yeah,
rips,
if they've been sitting
tear-outs.
and it's non-running, it's going to be dry rotted.
Unless it was up in the air on like a pallet or something maybe.
Right.
But chances are they're sitting on the grass and crap.
Yeah.
You can check bogey wheel condition, kind of, check high vacs. You know, just
Carbides on the front end. If you guys haven't seen the video of what to look for buying a running sled, make sure you watch that. I kind of do a little bit more on like rideability features, more or less. This one here, you're looking for mechanical and functionality of components more than is it a running sled, you know?
Right.
So you want to make sure that it's complete. The steering's not all frozen up. You have all the cables and linkages. Maybe the chain case has a little bit of oil in it. If the oil bottle has some oil in it, that's always a plus. And then if the track's not completely junk, you're in good shape.
Yeah.
And then check the track for tension. See if it's super banjo tight or if it's really, really loose.
Yeah.
If it's really, really loose, chances are maybe the adjuster's backed out or it's just been neglected over the years and never really checked. And then check for like components in the pouches, like the storage compartments. I've had some good finds.
Free stuff in there,
manuals, plugs,
You name it.
tow
Tool
ropes,
kits,
first
tool-
aid kits, you know, in case you get a boo-boo on the trail, you know, you might cut your finger on a branch, you know.
For all the skidoo, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah, for all the skidoo riders, you might want to put a Band-Aid on after they get hit with a branch, maybe. But yeah, that's about it there for non-runners. If you guys have any comments, leave them down below. Things you want us to go over on something like this. You know, pretty basic checks. This is designed for somebody that's not an expert on snowmobiles, someone that's just looking to get into it. Hey, I found this sled. It's been sitting for 10 years. You know, what are the
I
things
don't know
should
what
check?
to look at before I go to buy it.
This is what you're looking at. If it's a liquid-cooled sled, you're going to want to pull the coolant reservoir cap, see if it's got coolant in it. If it's dry,
Color of the coolant too, mind
if it's
you.
dry, you know, it could just be a little bit low. Sometimes the water will evaporate out of the coolant if it's been sitting for a really, really long time. I've had that.
Yep.
Or you have coolant leaks that are hidden and you're not going to know about it until you get it running.
Right. And that's why you check all the other stuff too, because usually a coolant leak will lead to something else.
Exactly. And you always have the potentiality of, if it's liquid cooled and ran water in it, you could have a cracked head, cracked cylinder.
Crack block.
Yeah, all
You
that
name
stuff.
it.
So just be mindful with that, with liquid cooled stuff. You know, you got a little bit more things to look at. Same principles though, compression, spark, and fuel and air. Make sure it's all good. And then, like I said, there should be an air box on most sleds, some way to filter the air. We just took this one off because we were just servicing some stuff, and they slipped right back in on these polarises. So, other than that, that should do it for the non-runners. Once again, if you have questions, let us know in the comments.
Or anything to add on to that we may have missed over, because this is kind of like a non-pre-planned
Yeah,
video,
we just kind of
so
threw it together and just wanted to rumble off a few things off the top of our heads. And
that might potentially save you guys from spending more money than you should.
Yep, and then all this stuff, if you're trying to get a deal, you know, you always want to haggle with them. So you just,
Every time you find something, think in your head you're knocking off a certain amount of money.
kind of give you an idea. You know, an average CDI box on eBay, $50, Coil, 25.
Depending on what it is.
You know, you
But
just
yeah.
got to find all these parts if you want to make it run. And if you're trying to make money on it,
Air
well,
boot condition, I don't know if we spoke on that. in
yeah,
this video.
air boots, guys. They're the boots that connect the carbs to the engine. Make sure those are in primo condition. I mean, I wouldn't say primo, but not full of RTV.
Or dry
not
cracks.
ripped off. And if you pull on them and you see them separate, that's probably
Yeah,
a bad sign.
if you can wiggle the carbs a little bit to see.
So, and if the boot clamps are bonsai'd all the way tight, that's a chance that the boots are probably really, really old.
Right.
Because then it won't have a good clamping force.
Yep.
Highly recommend if you're going to replace those, go with the OEMs. I've had shitty luck with aftermarket boots, the rubber compound, and just not as good. So, other than that, that's going to be it for the video, guys. Make sure, I think we have some links to Amazon stuff for like spark testers and stuff. If you want to get them in the description, make sure you check that out. Otherwise, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next video.